It's another episode of Girl Dream Again, the podcast. Welcome back to our second segment for the month of June. And tonight I am absolutely elated to have with me one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. She's here to share her story tonight. Our title for the month is Truth and Trauma. And so tonight I have one of my closest, most best friends with me on the Girl Dream Again set. And I'd like for you to put your hands together and welcome my friend, the beautiful Miss Stephanie Mixon.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
You good? Mm-hmm. You ready to dig in tonight?
Yes.
Good. So tonight, this feels a little weird. It feels a little weird because in our casual time over the years, let me mention Stephanie and I have been friends for years. There's a little inside joke. She said that when I started to my current place of employment that I was a bully.
True.
And I made her talk to me.
Which is
that how you see it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so since that day, Stephanie and I have developed such an amazing friendship over the years, and we'll get to that in a minute. But from knowing Stephanie over the years and just hearing her story about trauma and triumph and tests and so many things that you've had to endure throughout the years. And honestly, Stephanie, when I've heard you say some of the things that you have, I've wondered how you survived so many of the things that you have.
Nobody but God.
Nobody but God.
Nobody but God.
That's an amazing starting point. So if I had to ask you, Stephanie, before we get into the meat of the podcast and we start to dig a little bit, if I had to ask you today to introduce Stephanie 52 years later, after childhood Stephanie, after teenage Stephanie, after marriage Stephanie, mother Stephanie, trauma Stephanie, what would you say about yourself?
Oh, wow. In the words of my baby daughter, I'll say I must be a mighty, mighty, mighty Power Ranger.
Power Ranger.
Power Ranger is the word I'm going to use.
Wow. Power Ranger.
Power Ranger. Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about Power Ranger. Power Ranger. In what term?
You know how you go through something and something that was intended to just take you out, and you overcome that one, and just as sure as you think that you get one foot on the ground and you're headed up, you get knocked right back down again. So as soon as you start again, you're going up that mountain, and it's like boom, you get kicked back down again. And on top of that, you know, you don't have no one to hold their hand out and say, let me help you, or let me take that from you. But otherwise, you got four little ones looking up at you like, you know, we got to eat. No matter how you feeling today, you got to get up. And you got to do this. So that's why I say Power Ranger, because from that day to the Stephanie now, I like what I see in the mirror. I look in the mirror and I smile.
I love it. That means there was a time that you did not smile.
I did not like that lady in the mirror. She was ugly. She just was not going to amount to anything. She was a failure. I mean, all the negative.
And that was by whose standards? Is that what Stephanie had convinced herself that she was? Or is that what people had said to Stephanie that she was?
That was the people who were supposed to bring me up and encourage me, told me that I would never do anything in life. I wouldn't amount to anything, you know. Because at that time, they said that I was just fast. They thought I was just out here. So it was the stigma that you were just this little promiscuous girl.
So let's talk about the childhood Stephanie. Let's talk about the Stephanie before the trauma. The little girl Stephanie, the pure Stephanie, the innocent Stephanie, the undefiled Stephanie, the Stephanie before trauma touched Stephanie's being. If you can go back that far, I heard someone say the other day that sometimes trauma is rooted so deeply in our life that we forget who we were before the trauma. And that resonated with me, and you know, it was kind of like a wow moment. But if you can bring back your recollection, what was the little girl Stephanie? what were your dreams? What were your hopes, your desires? Every little girl has some dream, some hope. So if you can think back, I know you're pretty old now. But if you can think back to before life happened to Stephanie, before she intended for it to happen, what was that little girl like?
Honestly, I don't think I ever got to be a little girl. I was never. I don't.
Oh wow.
I don't know what it's like to go outside and play with the kids and have baby dolls and just make mud pies, play hopscotch. Like, I never got to do any of that.
Wow, you said you never got to be a little girl.
No. I missed that whole phase is a blur. I was never a little girl.
And so you grew up with a single mother, or your mother and dad?
It was mom and dad.
Okay.
It was mom and dad and a little sister.
Okay.
It was you would think that it was the just happy home. Mom and dad went to work. We went to school. I was a big sister.
Yeah.
She's my little sister. And you would think that, we'd come home and whoever got home from work early, which was my dad, and he cooked dinner. And I'm going to say I was his little wife.
And so you were born and reared in a small little country town.
Mm-hmm.
And
a small town.
Yes, a small little country town. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody is family.
Yes.
And as you put it, in a 2-parent household, the American dream, right? 2-parent household.
Church
their
every
children.
Sunday.
Church every Sunday.
McDonald's on Friday.
Routine. But Stephanie's story is behind the face. There's deep trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so you said something that was key. You said you never experienced a childhood because your recollection is before you could experience childhood, you had somehow skipped past that and went directly into adulthood. And about what age was that?
That was age 9.
Age 9.
Mm-hmm.
So at age 9, you are cooking the meals,
mm-hmm.
you are cleaning the house, I suppose.
Yes.
Tell me about age 9.
Age 9, my biological father would come home from work, and I would be made to. My sister got to go outside and play, and I was made to stay in the house, prepare the meal, fix the meal, wash the dishes. And then he just began to, touch on me and ask certain questions, like, have you started, developing in your private areas, and that's how it started. That's basically how it started.
Yeah, and so now you're in a role that you never asked for, right? Mm-hmm. You are assuming duties that a female adult should assume, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that continues for how long?
So the questionings went on to probably about 10. And keep in mind, him and my mom used to argue a lot. So I was raised in chaos. So they would argue. So he would say, you better not tell your mama. At one point he'll kill her. He'll kill Tanya. So
wow.
It went from that to my mom and him everybody would go to bed, and in the middle of the night we had bunk beds. I'll never forget it. I slept on the top bunk, she slept on the bottom bunk, and he would creep in there at night. And no matter if something, I remember pretending like I was asleep, taking the cover and balling it over my head, and praying that my little sister didn't hear me. That we lived in a mobile home. I don't know if anybody how mobile homes are. Everything kind of like shotgun.
Yes.
So we would go to the front, and it started out with just touches. It went from touches to oral, and it went from there to actually attempting to penetrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that continued for years.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
4 years.
And so after that happens, then what's next?
So around 10, I was in school and I got sick, and my mom had to come pick me up from school, and she took me to the doctor, and they said I was pregnant.
At 10?
At age 10. And we came home, and I actually got in trouble. I got fussed at. around him being fast, messing with these little boys. I got my grades gonna suffer. I got time to wait on boys. As if I was out doing this. You know what I mean? And I was like, no. So then my dad concocted this story that I was at my grandmother's house and that this guy broke in and he raped me. And we literally went to the police station, and I was riding in the back of a police car looking for somebody who was already in the car with me. Yeah, so that was my mom. I guess that made it. He couldn't tell her that, of course.
Right.
He couldn't say, I touched our child, of course. And so they took me down to Tallahassee, got an abortion. And at this abortion, they had me awake. They made me feel all of it. I felt the entire process. There was no...
You said that this abortion.
This abortion, yes, because that was the second one. Now, the second time, he took my urine to a lab. He made me pee in a medicine bottle, and he took it to a lab. No one knew about it, and because my cycle hadn't came on. And he took it to the lab. He came back and he was like, "You're pregnant again." So this time we went back to Tallahassee, except my name was Keisha Brown. His name was Frank Brown. And I remember like yesterday, like I could probably drive to Tallahassee and go to the building.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me fast forward past that statement.
Yes, I know.
Let me come out of the thick of that, if you don't mind, and let me fast forward past that. And so from age 9 to age 13 or 14,
mm-hmm.
okay, you have experienced incest.
Mm-hmm.
You have been impregnated.
Mm-hmm.
And at 14 years old, I assume now you are taken out of the home, or you're moved, or what is the stop sign at the age 14?
And it was 13. After the second abortion, he dropped me off to my grandmother's house, and I was in pain. So my mom has a sister that's about 4 years older than me, and I confided in that aunt, and she's the one who actually told my mom.
So your mom had no clue before then?
She says. That's what she says.
Okay.
And so we left. My mom came, fussing actually, because she said it was embarrassing. And we went to his job, and she packed us up and moved us here to Jacksonville.
Yeah. And so now you are 13, 14-ish, and you're relocating to Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so now you're 13, 14, you've moved. You suffered all of this. You relocated to another city and state.
Mm-hmm.
And how is life then?
I felt bad. I was feeling guilty because my mom made me feel like I just ruined her life. Basically, now she's a single mom. She has these 2 kids.
Yeah.
We got to start over. She put me in this counseling, I think, because she had to. I never forget. It was at Shan's. It was this counselor, and this lady told me that I was going to hell.
Wow.
She said I was going to hell. Wow. Because I killed 2 kids. And she was like, well, she kind of made me feel like it was my fault. Mm-hmm. And that's basically where it stayed. Because at this point now, we're in a new city. My family in Thomasville is thinking that I was just fast, and they're telling me I need to stop lying on my dad. Still no love. I mean, love just wasn't a thing. Whatever that is, just never. It was just like I just felt like, nah, I don't ruin everybody's life. Mm-hmm. So I was a teenager at that point, just feeling like that. I guess that's where the failure started.
That's good, and I'm glad you segued there. And so for the next few years, you just kind of maintain, right? Mm-hmm. And then when you're finally of age where you can leave mama's house, then you meet a guy.
Yeah.
And then we have a second recurrence of something.
Yes.
You meet a guy.
Goodness. Well, I met this guy, and because my feeling or definition of love or affection is at this point is confused. Mm-hmm. I met him, and at this time my mom was, she was a single mom, and she was just one of those mothers. She did her best. I'll say that. Yes. She did her best. Yes. But I don't know if you heard it when you were little, but if you think you're grown, get out on your own.
Yes.
So at 16 I ran away.
Wow.
and I lived with my kid's father, and I thought I was finna be happy, have my life, you know me. And at this point, I did get pregnant again, but keep in mind, I didn't share this part. The doctor had told me I would never have any kids.
Wow.
So I wasn't supposed to have any kids. So I got pregnant, and honestly, I wasn't sad about being pregnant because I was told I would never have any.
Yes.
So I was kind of happy.
Yes.
I started me a job at McDonald's. I'm making my own money. We found a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, it was something.
Yes.
You know, and then we did that 2 years, and then we got married. On my 18th birthday, I got married, and the rest of the kids were born in wedlock. But then he commenced to use me for a punching bag.
So abuse starts now in your marriage.
I'm married and getting beat. I mean, I'm getting beat up because he's cheating, and the ladies are calling my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that marriage lasted how long?
I stayed 9 years.
9 years, okay.
I stayed because I wanted my kids to have a mother and a father.
Yes, I understand. And so for 9 years, you're married, you have 4 beautiful children out of the union, and then that marriage ends. So let's talk about motherhood and the trauma you experienced. So how does the bruised Stephanie mother children?
So I decided these are mine. They're going to love me. They're not going to think nothing bad of me. So they were just like a ray of sunshine, because
had you committed that you would mother your children differently than you were?
Yes, I made a promise to myself that I would be a better parent than my brother. I told them that I loved them a lot.
Right.
I went out, even if I didn't eat, they ate. You know, if the lights got turned off, sometimes you make that arrangement with JEA, but the paycheck don't hit till the day before it. But they never knew. So whatever I went through, the kids, I tried my best to keep that away from them. Although I think my girls might have seen more than I wanted them to. But I would stay shut off in my room, still not really having any friends now. Then I called myself trying to date, but it was still the same thing, like dating these people that, they wanted to beat on you. They wanted to control you.
So it became a cycle.
It was a cycle. I was attracted to abuse because I thought that was love. That's how you show love.
Yes, by abuse.
You black my eye, you hitting me, cursing me. You love me.
Yeah. So, and we'll get there in a second, because I want to go back to the motherhood part. I had a guest a few weeks ago, and it was our Father's Day segment, and it was just a very transparent conversation. And we talked about fatherhood there, right? But when we talk about motherhood, because there might be some woman that has experienced trauma, maybe not to your depth, but they have experienced trauma, right? Some broken relationship with their mother or with their father. Maybe they never got it and they don't know how to give it to their children. All of your children are grown now.
Oh, yes.
Right? And so the least is to say you've done your job, raise your children to the best of your ability, right? But what would you say to some mother who has experienced some form of trauma? Maybe they still have smaller kids, and they just don't know because they're a product of their environment. And we can only give from the cup by which we have, right? I can't give you what I don't have.
You're right.
And so what would you say to the woman, just to pause for a moment, who suffered the trauma, but she's still trying to play mom?
I would encourage her to heal, to go get some outside help, because my first child, I'm pretty sure he thinks I'm the worst person in the world because he probably got the worst version of his mom.
Wow.
Even to this day, I'll be honest, like, love, what is that? Because not only, my dad did what he did, but I was mad at my mom for a long time too, because some of those nights she was home and I just found it hard to believe that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And, you didn't want to sit down and talk to me. We never talked about it. It was like I didn't start talking about this till I turned 30.
And I'm
52.
So for 30 years, you internalized.
And I was still trying to force a relationship with people that hurt me.
Yeah. And let's talk about that for a second. So for years and years, you internalized what happened, which is absolutely not uncommon, right? Some people go all their life in the grave and they never talk about things that they suffered. Have you since talked about it?
I talk now.
Has there been a moment of reckoning with your parents?
Well, my sister forced a sit down.
Okay.
She had a different version of her parents. I can't get mad at her,
That's good. You said she had a different version of your parents.
Mm-hmm. She really did. Her life with them was totally different than mine. So if you were to put
we're talking not just absence of the abuse that you suffered, right?
Just a whole different, as if I was just a mistake, like they never would. That's how I felt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your
they
story.
Just didn't want me. They helped her along. They bought her first car. They celebrate her.
So those were, yeah.
She doesn't see them the way I see them. For years, me and my sister disagreed on that, like Mother's Day and Father's Day. Like, she chooses to celebrate that, and I don't care. Holidays are not good. Past couple of years, holidays are getting better because I have friends that treat me like family.
Absolutely.
And I spend time with their families, and it's like, but it still makes you think. So like you were asking about the mother that has the kids that's holding all that in. The reason I say get some help is because you'll find yourself yelling at your kids sometimes, and it could be something small, like they went outside and got their tennis shoes dirty. But you're going to be scream. You're going to punish them till they scream because you're really mad on the inside. You're hurting. And
so you're saying that you can have an effect on your children and those around you because there's something in you that you've not dealt with, right? So it's almost like you bleed on the people that didn't cut you.
That did not cut you, and everybody pays for it.
Yeah.
Everybody pays for it.
And so for years, would you say everybody paid for what happened to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Relationships.
Oh, I haven't had a successful relationship. When I started therapy, I just said, hey, I need to love me. I need to fall in love with me.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't even wear like dresses. I wore long pants, turtlenecks. Like, I covered everything up for the longest. To this day, I'm still not comfortable. Like, if a man come in the house, they got to fix something, I'm still not comfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a lot of things I still, even 40 years later, it's a lot of things that I still don't feel comfortable. Like, if I'm in the bathroom, I'll tell anybody, do not walk in the bathroom with me.
Yeah. Stephanie, what would you say, because both of your parents are still alive?
Yes.
Fortunately, yes. So there's still time for total healing. I'll say that, okay? We won't ever X that out. You understand?
I understand, okay. Yes.
But I think in an uninterrupted setting, your parents are not here. If there was something that you've always wanted to say, or if there was something you wanted to express, what is it that you wish your parents would understand that maybe you've not gotten them to understand?
For my dad, I would want him to understand that he took something from me that I could never get back.
Yes.
And I just want him, I'm not going to say I want him to hurt, because I can honestly tell you today and mean it and tell you I forgave him, because that's for me. And I know I forgave him because when I forgave him, I felt like a ton of bricks was lifted off me, and I've been getting blessed ever since. But I would tell him that, if he didn't want me, did you not want me? I'll have questions. Yes. Why? I mean, they say I look just like you. Yeah. Like, I'm your daughter. Dads are supposed to teach their daughters, like, how a man is supposed to treat them. They're supposed to protect their daughters. Yes. Usually you hear daddy's girl, and I see this, but it's like, I wish I had that.
Yeah, you can never relate.
I wish I had a big brother, just some type of male role model to show me what men are supposed to do. Because coming from, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And when you don't know, and you go through your life trying to figure it out, and what would you say to your mom?
Learn to listen to your daughters. Don't stop listening to defend yourself. Listen to understand, because even kids that are minors, they have feelings too.
Yes.
And I think we as parents, we need to realize that there's a way that they can communicate themselves, because you never know what they're thinking and what they're feeling.
That's true.
When you have this going on with you and you have these kids with you, they take in everything you take in.
Yes.
And they remember
Yes.
things you think they don't remember.
Well, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Your children, because again, we're talking about a version of a person. It's almost like the relationship that you talked about. You never learned what male protection looked like. And as a result of that, you had sons, right? And so you don't know how really let's just be honest, when you're absent of a skill set, you have to figure it out as you go, right?
Correct.
Especially if you have never seen the example set, right?
Correct.
And so if you could equally have a conversation with your children uninterrupted, where they could hear your heart as mama that has endured all of this my entire life. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being over the top. I'm not using excuses. This is who I am, right? These are the things that have shaped my reality. What would you say to your children?
For my oldest son, I would hug him and I would tell him I'm sorry.
Yes.
I would apologize to him. I would apologize to all of them, but the oldest one, I would genuinely just I would just apologize. I owe him.
Yes.
That relationship is broken today. It's broken, and I have to take the responsibility for my part.
Yes.
It's not all him.
Yes, absolutely. I understand. Has there been an attempt to reckon it?
It's been an attempt, but it hasn't been too successful. He's in prison. He stays in trouble with the law. He can't get right.
Okay.
I'm not going to say I used to blame myself for that part, but I can't take blame for that because I don't know how to steal cars, and I ain't teaching him how to do that. I ain't teaching him how to do none of that. He spent a lot of time with his dad, and he is his dad. So he kind of got a bad version of dad. He got a bad version of mom. He just got a raw deal.
Yeah. and Stephanie, it is safe to say that the same way Stephanie had to navigate, so did he, right?
Yeah.
He chose his path, but it was a path, an unlearned path, right? And so I think some measure deserves a lot of grace. A whole lot. Yeah, a whole lot of grace. He is just maybe the sum of his environment, just as you were, right? And I think maybe when you can see it from that lens, does it look like you extend more grace?
I try to, and then, also he, although I didn't want this to happen, but he was abused. Well, it wasn't nobody in my life. It was someone that was married to my mom. That was playing the grandfather role. And so I think that played another huge part. And it was like, that's something I promised myself I wouldn't let happen.
Yes.
So there we go, that failure again.
Yes.
So it's like it just kept repeating itself. Like, everything I touched, it failed. And it always came back to, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault.
And so, when did the healing journey start, Stephanie?
The healing started at age 36 when I looked in the mirror one day. I was on my knees crying, and I had just gotten attacked, beat up, whatever you want to call it. And I got up and I looked in the mirror and I said, "You need help." I said that I want more. They say if you want better, you got to do better.
Yes.
And I took the first step. And I walked into a therapist's office, and I just started, even though that I didn't like her, because, finding a therapist is like finding a good pair of jeans. You got to find one that fits.
Yes, that is right.
And when I did find one, it was one thing she said to me that just broke it. It made me broken. She said, you want to scream, you want to curse, whatever you want to do it. Stop worrying about everybody else's feelings. Because that was me. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to make them mad. She's like, they made you mad, right? I never forget you. You want to cuss, don't you? Curse. And we sat in there and we cried together like we went through a box of Kleenex, and it broke. The chain just broke. I'm still not gonna tell you today I'm 100% healed.
Absolutely
I cannot. And it's like, even with you will. I think God brought you in my life because you allowed me to grieve. You allow me to have the bad days, but you don't let me stay there.
Right.
You don't sugarcoat it. And I think those are the kind of friends I needed, and not the ones that were judgmental. Mm-hmm. Not the ones like, it's been 40 years, you ain't over that yet.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
And I met somebody at an event, Dream Again had the very first one. I met somebody, and she told me, she said, you will never forget it.
Yes.
You will never totally be healed from it, but you got to learn how to live with it and live through it. She said, you can't be hurt around, you can't be broken around everybody. So that's, you gotta choose who you gotta be careful who you're broken around, because everybody doesn't know how to, I'm gonna say they didn't know how to react to it. Mm-hmm. Because my ex-husband, the kid's father, in arguments he would say, but that's why your dad, and from that point on, I vowed not to tell nobody else.
Yes, because it became a weapon.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Stephanie. What kind of mechanisms would you say you still deal with today as a result of it? Because I heard you say a little bit earlier that, if there's someone that has to come to do repairs in your home, if it's a guy, or you don't like your personal spaces being invaded, right? But when I talk about mechanism, I primarily mean, and it can be anything with your children and your friendship circles, with your sister, anyone. What kind of mechanisms do you think it has caused that still need to be broken?
Me wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm. There's still a mask.
I put on a mask, and I'm there for everybody.
Yes.
I pour into all these cups.
Yes.
And I don't realize when mine
has run low. Mm-hmm. Is it because you don't know when one is pouring into your cup, because you don't know what it looks like for someone?
I'll agree with that.
To pour into your cup.
And that's just like loving me. Like, I don't know what it feels like. And I think I asked you too, what does it feel like to know that someone truly loves you? Like, how do you know?
So the parentals, there's no love, you feel.
We didn't even hear that word, I love you.
Yeah, in the home. Mm-mm. And then there's a marriage. Then there's a second marriage. And then there's children, who most people would say the most pure form of love comes from.
Your kids, right?
Your children. And so when you say, I don't know what love feels like, are we just simply talking about relational?
No, I'm talking about
the totality of love.
There's a lot of days I feel like I failed my kids. Mm-hmm. I feel like they didn't get... I hope I didn't scar them for life. I pray, and I always pray to God, I ask God to help me now.
Yes.
So now I try to be an understanding mom. Now I try to listen. Now, I want them to tell me how they really feel. I don't want them to sugarcoat it. Don't be afraid to hurt my feelings, because I need to know, because I really feel like I really let them down. Mm-hmm. Although my daughters, the twins, they always tell me how I'm the biggest hero. They I'm a strong woman. They encourage me.
Yeah.
But sometimes I lay in bed at night and I'm like,
you don't feel that achievement as a parent.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'll say this because I've known you, Stephanie, for years. And I feel like I've gone beyond the mask. I feel like I know the Stephanie that is beyond the mask. And I'll absolutely say, and I wholeheartedly pray you receive it, and I mean this from a very, 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 the depth of my heart. I think you've done your absolute best with the hand that you were dealt. Maybe you have not done everything you wanted to do, but you have been an amazing mother to your children. And I know the fruits of it sometimes doesn't look that way, but believe you me, you have. You have. I think that's the one thing you can be most proud of yourself, that you have been an amazing mother to your children, right? This is what I want to know, though. I want to know, because Stephanie is now 52 years old, and although Stephanie has endured some things that would have killed most people, that would have sent some people to the insane asylum, Stephanie still has some scars and some bruises, but Stephanie has triumphed. Stephanie has done what Stephanie has never imagined she'd do.
Oh, yes.
You built a brand new house.
I did, from the ground.
You have excelled in your career more than you ever would have. I remember when we first met at the job, and we were talking about past work experiences, and just to see how far you've come. When you think about that little girl, pre and post trauma, throughout the whole duration of Stephanie's life to where Stephanie is today.
Yes, I am beautiful inside and out now. I started with the welfare, with the housing assistance. When we met, we was in the call center. I want to say we probably were making, $15, $16 an hour.
Yeah.
And I just worked through that company, the same company we're still with, until I found my passion. And my passion is fraud investigation. And today, I can honestly say I just attended my very first global fraud conference.
Global.
And I'm getting ready to take the state certified fraud examiner's course. But I have more than tripled my income over the last 6 years.
Yes.
Got a brand new house, and they said I would never. I was 48 when I got it, but oh well.
That's right. That's absolutely
I drove a car off the lot, brand new. A lot of things that I was told I would never do.
So how do you care for this version of Stephanie today?
I'm very protective of this Stephanie's peace. I won't. I have set boundaries, and I'm not going to let anybody, nobody.
Because there was a time Stephanie didn't have a voice
At all.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think my voice mattered. How I felt mattered. But now, ever since I realized I have a voice, I can't shut up. You do something to me, I let you know right then.
I can attest to that.
But one thing I will not do that is a trigger, and that is arguing, confrontation, everybody yelling and cursing at each other, because at this point no one's listening.
Yes.
I feel like I'm closer to God. I know God is real, and I know God hears me.
Yes.
And I used to think that, it's this song I like. I'm good. The Fighting Temptations, the song on there.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was like that song. It was that, and then there's a Yolanda Adams song, "Be Blessed," and it's like I hear those songs, and there's another one on my Exodus, and I hear those songs, and it's like, oh, this is my testimony. And even sitting right here talking to you on this podcast is actually it's an achievement, because I've never been as open about things, and I feel okay. I don't feel like I'm worried about somebody's feelings. And I pray that it does help somebody. That if you're sitting there and you've been through these things and you're holding it in and you're scared to say something, find a safe place and let it out. You feel, the more I talk about it, the better I feel.
Is that what you say to somebody that is probably suffering in silence? Yeah.
I do.
Because let's be honest, there are many people that suffer in silence.
Yes.
Yeah.
You think nobody cares.
Yeah.
Because every listening ear is not a listening
That
ear.
is right. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
So it's bad that we've gotten to the point where I could be thinking of suicide and I can't even call for help, or no one notices the signs that I'm pulling away. And a true friend knows in your silence that you're hurting.
That's absolutely right.
You don't have to say nothing.
That's
you gotta
absolutely
call
right.
them. They know.
That's absolutely right.
And I finally know what a true friend is. So I feel good about that part.
Yeah.
Now if we could just get me a good companion. I don't want a relationship right now, but just a companion.
Stephanie is single.
I know you say it's coming.
Stephanie is single, a very well achieved woman. Let me just throw that out there. Stephanie, if you had to talk to a little girl tonight, or go back and talk to the little Stephanie, what would you say?
I would tell her that there is still hope. I would say that, that I'm here. Yeah. I'm here to listen, not to judge you. I would say that it's not your fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault.
I needed to hear that. Somebody should have told me that a long time ago.
Because is guilt the number one thing that... Yes. Guilt is the number one thing.
Guilt almost had me to take my own life, but God saw.
Yes.
God didn't want me yet.
Absolutely right. That's right. And so the plague of guilt.
Guilt is a big one.
Well, yeah.
And shame.
Guilt and shame. That's good. Guilt and shame. So what's next for Stephanie?
Oh, I'm gonna get these letters behind my name, and I'm gonna open up my own private eye business.
Oh, girl.
That's my goal for. I might be 60 doing it, but
so the goal is a private investigator.
Yes, I like that. That's my passion.
Yeah. You become passionate about this cybersecurity thing.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you eat it and you breathe it.
Yes.
Yeah. You could take a look at, I won't say that.
No.
But it is your passion. It absolutely is. Where do you think that drive came from?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't know.
But it's something you grabbed a hold
It's
of
something
and you
that
never
I grabbed.
stopped.
Yes, it was like at our job. I don't know if you remember. You probably do. In 2000, back late 2000, when we had that incident, and all that money was lost, and I had to be one of the people to call these hospitals and tell them they were missing like $2.5 million.
Yeah.
It was like just to talk to them and to educate them, because it just it's like a fire inside. I'm helping somebody.
That's what I was looking for. That's exactly what I was looking for. You're helping somebody. Yeah. And that can be translated to maybe the help that you never received.
Yes.
You have been such a great guest tonight.
You've been a great host, okay?
I'm serious. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. And there was so much we didn't get to. There was so much that we didn't get to, but I am eternally grateful for you coming on and sharing your story. I'll be honest, there was a little heaviness this week when I started to think about your story. And I want to say specifically to our listening audience that it is Stephanie's story, right? Because let's be honest, Stephanie, there might be someone that's watching and maybe it's not their story or their perception or their interpretation of the story. And so it is not our desire to create a platform that's one-sided or, does not give a voice to others, but it is your story.
It's my story.
It is your beautiful story of how I persevered, I was resilient, and I overcame. That's exactly right, whatever your traumas were. And so I think it's absolutely necessary to say that it is your story.
It is.
And I thank you for sharing Stephanie's story tonight. You gonna come back?
Sure.
You gonna come back when you're the private investigator?
Yeah, I'll come back.
So, Stephanie, I want you to give our listening audience some parting words tonight. I don't know. You're really shy. This is the first time I think you've been on a platform like this. And if you're gonna be a private investigator, honey, you got to go and sell your agency to somebody. And so, I want you to look in that camera. Yeah, that's your camera. I want you to look in that camera, and I want you to share from your heart. I want you to share specifically to the person that's bound, to the person that's not yet free, to the person that's still carrying the guilt and the shame. And I want you to sincerely, from your heart, just share a couple of parting words tonight about how they can overcome.
My first words would be, like I said, it's not your fault.
Yes.
Forgiveness is for you. You'll find that when you let go of, when you realize that it's not your fault, that you'll feel lighter. When you realize that you're not dirty, you're not a failure, you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't make that person hurt you. And you just have to, with help of a network, a circle, a positive circle,
yes,
that would allow you to speak on it, that's going to listen, to understand and not judge.
Yes.
That you can break those chains and you can become a better person and you'll feel better, you'll breathe better. Not going to say every day is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
But even on those dark days, just find something positive to focus on. Don't focus on the negative, and don't allow negative to surround you, because if you're already heavy and you're already dealing with that, you can't take on nobody else's negativity.
Yes, that's
so that's my
right.
thing. I wake up every morning and I say today is going to be a positive day. And I do that when they start coming at me with, oh, guess what? Not today. So that's what I would say, that you are important, that you're worth it. And if you want better, you got to take the first step and do better.
I like it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I hope and pray you've enjoyed the podcast tonight. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you on the next one.